If one person is a dream killer, make sure that you talk to 3 or 4 other people and find the one who is the dream filler, the bucket filler, the aspiration driver, the stars explorer with you. Because the bigger and the brighter your star, the more opportunities you have for the future.
What Tina was talking about just then is something every student needs. The right people in their corner. People who push you forward instead of holding you back. And today's conversation is really about how you build that kind of support system throughout your college journey. Welcome back to Scholar Scoop. I'm Steve Loflin. I'm joined by Tina Gridiron, a higher education expert and student success advocate who shares her own path from being a first-generation college student to navigating community college, transferring to Berkeley, and building a career helping students succeed. We talk about the role of mentorship, why residence life and community matter more than people realize, and how students and their families can make smarter, more confident decisions about college. If you're trying to figure out your path or help someone else navigate theirs, this is a conversation you don't want to miss. Now, let's get some Scholar Scoop from Tina. Hey there, Tina.
Hello, hello.
Thank you so much for jumping on to do a little scholar scooping with me. I've been looking forward to this. How about you? Have you been looking forward to this?
I always look forward to spending time with you, Steve. Always.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, it's interesting that you say that because, well, I think we were calculating recently. It's like more than 30 years ago that we met to spend some time together going around the world. And so I think when you have an experience like that and you still want to spend time with someone after that, that's a pretty good sign, right?
Very good sign. I would agree.
Yeah, that was like a great experience. And, I loved the whole semester at sea thing. And I've had a few Scholar Scoop conversations about semester at sea, which has been really nice to stay connected to that.
Yes.
Do you see yourself ever wanting to do that again?
Oh, semester at sea, I would go back on that journey in a heartbeat. If life
Okay.
made it possible, either to go as a senior once I hit that, 60 or 65
In about 20
years.
years or
In
so?
about 20 years, who knows, or right around the corner, you decide. Or as a staff member, semester at sea it is an amazing journey and is life-changing, not just for the students who participate, but also for the staff and the senior folks that participate and the crew. It is a great community building across multiple spaces, and it's beautiful. I would go again in a heartbeat.
I do think the community piece is sometimes it doesn't get talked about enough. And I think just the fact that, we stayed so connected and well, I won't bring up that we had a reunion and you had to miss that. But besides that fact, you had a
Yes.
pretty good excuse. You had a pretty good excuse. But I think the community that's built through that is really great, but it extends beyond those of us that were on the team together. It's also students. Like, I know so many students from way back then that still see each other frequently because they met. And when I think about college and just the whole experience of college, I think there's so much about it that oftentimes also doesn't get thought about from the community that you build from the experience. And I know both you and I are, I guess at the core, I would say we're both student affairs people.
Yes, I would
We
agree.
have a big commitment to student development and all of those things. And so maybe as we're talking through some things that might be useful for students who are in the middle of their college experience or possibly high school students that are starting to think about that journey, when you think about your college experience, you did
Mhm.
your undergrad at Berkeley, is that right?
That's correct. Go
Yeah,
Bears.
so go Bears for you. So when you think back to college, did it meet your expectations? Was it what you expected when you think
Mm.
back on what you got out of that experience?
Wow. So we're talking over 30 years ago
I
for
know it's a
me.
test. It's a memory
I'm
test,
going
Tina.
all the way back. And so I'm a California gal through and through.
Okay.
And I grew up in Southern California, and I am a first generation college student. I
Okay.
provide that background because my parents both started college but never finished,
Hmm.
and their perspective about what was available was limited.
Hmm.
And my high school counselor said the local community college was where I should put my energy. And my high school English teacher said, I think you should just apply to the flagship public institution, UC Berkeley, as your, what is it, Hail Mary throw, because I see some potential in you. So
Okay.
the two schools I applied to, the local community college and UC Berkeley, were very different experiences. But I
Hmm.
would say that I didn't have a clear sense of what to expect
Yep.
because the only message I had was, you're going to go to college from my parents because we didn't finish and we want you to finish. Okay. But understanding the different types of institutions and the different kind of community experience you can have at a community college, at a public flagship, at a private institution, at a local liberal arts college, there was no understanding of the unique community experiences that are available at each space. So I share that
Yep.
because I didn't know what to expect.
Yep.
And Berkeley is a very large campus with a
Mhm.
lot of opportunities. And being an inner city LA gal, moving up north was a culture shock just in understanding the lay of the land. So for
Mhm.
me, Residence Life provided my community experience, the residence hall experience, my RA experience, my community on my hall and in my dorm room helped to anchor me in
Yep.
a space that was very, I mean, there was at the time over 35,000 students at Berkeley. I don't know if that's still the case now. I haven't kept
Mhm.
up with whether the campuses has grown, but with that many individuals, all brilliant, coming from the top of their class from all over the world, it was very daunting and
Yep.
challenging. So if it wasn't for Residence Life and the, um, I would say, a strong community, warm community that I experienced on campus in my residence hall, I think I would have wandered and maybe would have gone home because it was a lot to absorb at such a big place.
Yeah, that is so much good information for students. And I think sometimes when I hear first year students, and not even from the first gen perspective, which I'd like to talk about that for a couple minutes in a second, but just going into your first year, the students that are often like, I don't think I want to live on campus, or I think I would rather live off campus. I'm always like, you should live on campus if you can, because there's so much about that experience, to your point, that anchors you, and you have a place to build that community and a place to go back to when you're particularly at a large school like you're talking about. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I think similar for me too. It's like you go through that experience, and then I wanted to be an RA, right?
Yes.
Um, but I actually never applied to be an RA, which is kind of funny. I went the orientation route. Like I wanted to be an orientation assistant person.
Yes.
But my senior year, my second semester, I got a call from Res Life asking me if I would come over and take over an RA position for someone that got into a little bit of trouble. And
Happens.
so I did have an RA experience, and I did have that experience thinking, I wish I would have done this earlier. But nonetheless, I'm glad you brought that up. And I do think a lot of people that choose to go into student affairs or student
Mhm.
development type work, when you start having conversations, you do discover that res life is oftentimes at the core of that. Like, I wanted to find a way to do this for a living somehow.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, it set the trajectory for my life and my future career. I often say that the learning and training and real life experience that I enjoyed as an RA, and then they called them hall coordinators when you actually supervised RAs as an undergraduate in my junior and senior year. That experience was work experience, was training around community building, and I took those core skills to every job I've had ever since I left UC Berkeley in a way that right now I couldn't tell you all the details of any class I took in the
Right.
academic side of the house. But I can tell you right now, I learned about how to build a team. I learned about leadership skills. I learned about how to communicate and create momentum for forward movement around positive engagement for young people and for students and for the team that I was on. Those were skills that I carried with me all the way through, even till today.
So when you say that and you think back on that, and your memory's pretty good for that long ago, Tina, I'm really impressed. When you say all that, what comes to mind for me are students today seem to be very reluctant to step up for leadership opportunities or to take on responsibilities that will do everything that you just said, right? And when you talk to them about why, they'll say, well, I don't have any experience doing that. I don't know how to do that. And so when you think back on the opportunity to, as an undergraduate, to manage resident assistants, was it that you were just overflowing with so much management and leadership capabilities that, you just knew you could do it? Or did it make you nervous when you said yes to that?
Wow, what a great question. So it absolutely made me nervous. And I want to point to two things. First, there was a senior staff member, full time employee who took me under her wing my sophomore year
Hmm.
and mentored me when I was a first year RA. So I
Okay.
am a very big fan of mentoring. And she encouraged me to see the skills that I had and to take the risks to move into leadership opportunities or to direct a project, even as an RA, or to apply to the hall coordinator position in my junior year and my senior year. So I must say that just like my high school English teacher saw something in me and invested in me and encouraged me to apply to UC Berkeley,
Yep.
the senior administrator who worked full time at UC Berkeley in the residence life program invested in me and said, you should strive for more than you're comfortable with. So that was the first thing. The
Yep.
second thing is UC Berkeley's residence life program provided detailed training all along the way. There was that, week-long training that every residence life
Yep.
program does. But then there were additional trainings once a month so that we were constantly building skills and being reminded of this is what the standard is. This is how you get there. These are the steps that you take towards getting there. When you run into challenges, know that you're not alone. So that continual learning opportunity was also a core component. So I would say, no, I didn't have the skills and I wasn't a strong individual coming into the program, but there was an individual who saw something in me and pulled those skills out and made them clear for me to see. And then a structure that helped to reinforce and build those skills along the way. It was the both and for me
Yep.
that then made me willing to step out into a new space to be a hall coordinator. You should know that the RA job that I applied for was about desperation. It was the
Mm.
one job that paid room and board on
Yep.
campus. And I was a first generation student who was on financial aid. And I knew that if I didn't find a way to bring additional resources to the table, I might have to go home. So the
Hmm.
first step was out of desperation. How do I pay to stay in college and free room and board and then working in the dining hall, in the dish room, and then working in the mail room? All of that happened in in the one residence hall. I worked in the mail
Wow.
room. I worked in the dining hall in the dish room. I became an RA. All of those things happened where I lived, and it allowed me to pay for my room and board in a way that I needed. So desperation started it, and then investment via mentor, and then investment via constant training and learning made all the difference.
I think a lot of times people do need that push, like a really good reason to go outside their comfort zone. So whether it's the desperation for a place to live is a good reason to push you over the edge, I'm sure, to apply for that. And then it worked out and all the other things unfolded. But it's just a common theme, like things can't unfold unless you actually take a first step toward doing something, right? And I think whatever it is, and the more students can kind of see the college experience as this like opportunity to just say yes to lots of things that will really carry you, just like you said, into your life experience. And if you don't have those experiences, who knows what it will turn out to be. But I just remember like some of the things that you learn about being a resident assistant or an orientation leader or involved with student government or all those things that you can latch onto outside the classroom. The things that you learn about team building and skill development when you go and sort of take your first job and you know how to do an icebreaker. Sometimes people look at you like, where in the world did you learn how to do that incredible thing? And it's like, well, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, I mean, you're just like, "Well, I'm good. I'm good at
No.
what I do," right? You know what I mean? It's like, but
That's
it's all
fair.
comes from this experience that you said yes to. And so did you find yourself getting into the hall coordinator role and then feeling the kind of pay it forward to become a mentor to people that
Mm.
were RAs on your team? Or, did you ask the person to be your mentor, or did that person just see something in you? Like, how does that happen next for you, or
How
how
does that
did it happen?
mentorship experience happen? I
Yeah.
would say for me, so you should know that I was extremely shy as a
Mhm.
first year and second year student on Berkeley's campus. So in the case of my high school senior English teacher, and in the case of my mentor as a freshman applying to be an RA and then staying engaged in both those experiences, they reached out to me. And I have been fortunate that um, once I step in, I'm not a bench warmer. So if you give me a checklist, I'm going to follow the checklist. One, because I'm a rule follower. And two, I am a people pleaser to a certain
Mhm.
extent as well.
Yep.
So I didn't want to let anybody down. And remember, Steve, I was in desperation mode. So I had to make sure I wasn't going to have to go home because
Right.
I lost my job or because I didn't fulfill expectations. So that drive to survive
Mhm.
definitely played a role. But savvy students today need to be to take initiative in order to make sure that individuals who could be their mentor see them. So if they don't automatically see you, then what are some things that you can do as a student to be seen? Maybe it is going above and beyond. It's not just attending the event, but it's staying to the event is all the way over, waiting in line to talk to the presenter or the speaker afterwards, and writing a thank you note to the presenter or speaker after the event is over to tell them what aspects of what they shared made a difference. Maybe it is not just going to this particular speaker's first session, but following them to 2 or 3 sessions and sitting in that
Mm.
T zone, that
Yep.
first row and straight down the middle, and making eye contact, using your nonverbals to stay engaged with the speaker. We all know that a room of 600, it's really hard for the speaker to see everyone. But if you sit in that T section, trust me, it's easier for them to remember you. And if
Mhm.
you go to 3 events rather than one, you have a higher likelihood of being noticed so that when you send that thank you note the third time, the mentor that you are now creating a relationship with is more likely to say yes. There is a requirement now for young people to take initiative. And I believe that there's healthy ways to take initiative that lets the potential mentor know that you mean business and you to exercise agency and strength and power that I did not have
Mhm.
automatically as a first year and second year student. I believe I benefited a lot from mentoring in order to bring me out of my shell as a first generation college student. But if you want a resource, there's a great book called The Truth About College Admissions by Bernard and Clark. That is a great resource for both students in college and students preparing for college
Oh,
around
good.
how do you say yes and how do you explore different opportunities on campus.
Oh, that's great. We'll put a link to that too when people are looking through this, because it's always good to have those resources handy, and particularly when they come recommended, because sometimes
Yeah.
the bookshelf can be overloaded with, I'm sure, tons of great information, which might be overwhelming for some people. So to be pointed toward something that is a good, reliable resource is great. So thanks for sharing that. That's really helpful. I want to go back to the first generation college
Yeah.
student, because something that I hear more than I wish, and it's very bothersome, is with first generation college students and others, there's a lack of people. I call them like, I call them dream crushers, right? These people that have students in their care that they're trying to help them think about their journey or their path forward. And sometimes it seems the tendency is to kind of minimize their possibilities or minimize their capabilities, and I don't understand that, because I never feel like you're doing anyone a disservice if you don't encourage them to at least put themselves out there, right? So when you were told, that your potential was limited and you should consider a community college and you had other aspirations, how's a person supposed to deal with that
Mm.
without just feeling bad about themselves. You know what I mean? Does that make any
Yes.
sense?
I know exactly what you mean. As a first generation college student, you may not have 10 people in your family who graduated from college and who can tell you these are the A, B, and C things that you should do. So when you
Right.
go to a counselor or you go to a teacher and they present only a limited perspective, it would be really easy to just say, okay, I give up.
Right.
I would say that the more individuals you can surround yourself who have a different opinion, maybe it's your math teacher, maybe it's your football coach, maybe it's your cheerleading coach, maybe it's your band director. Talk to more people. Don't let one perspective dictate what you do. Get a second and third and fourth opinion and then make a decision because one person's perspective is not the only perspective that's out there. For me, if I only listened to the counselor, I would have had a different journey. UC Berkeley versus my local community college sends you on a different journey. I
Right.
wouldn't say that either journey is bad. It's just different. And then it requires different initiative and drive. For me, it was my high school English teacher who said, I want you on this trajectory and you should apply. It wasn't necessarily my aspiration to apply. It
Hmm.
was my aspiration to go to college and finish college because that's what I was supposed to do. But the how and the what and the where came from the individuals around me. So I would say, other first generation students, if one person is a dream killer, make sure that you talk to 3 or 4 other people and find the one who is the dream filler, the bucket filler, the aspiration driver, the stars explorer with you because the
Hmm.
bigger and the brighter your star, the more opportunities that you have for the future.
That's really good advice. And I think it's scary, I'm sure, if you don't have a family of people that have had college experience and they can't really help you with all of the process. And I'm sure you know better than anyone, like as a parent of college students and kind of the work that you do, isn't it like now just super complicated applying for colleges? Like, you have to decide if you're doing it early admissions or early decision and all of these things that a first generation student would just, I'm sure, be really overwhelmed by. And so I think your advice is really good. Like, ask other people and especially your teachers. Go out of your way to just look for a teacher or two or three, and have them weigh in even on what you're being told by your college counselor. Because I also know college counselors at a lot of schools are extremely overwhelmed. They've got a
500 to 1.
large, right,
Yes.
right. So when they're trying to help hundreds of students think about this journey, it's not as if they're giving you probably a ginormous amount of their time to help you sort it out. So you have to take some initiative, right?
That the initiative journey is real. And the the one thing I like about this book, The Truth About College Admissions, is that it is a play-by-play approach for both students and parents on how they
Okay.
can both take initiative and support each other in the college journey and the college success journey once you get to college. So for me, it was a resource that I wish I would have had as a
Mhm.
student and that I could have shared with my parents so that we walk through it together. Because if your counselor can't be your advocate and your parents didn't go to college and don't already know about it, what are some ways that we can, bulk up our knowledge base and reach out? Is there a local community organization that is doing some college tours or college planning work? If you Google college workshops or college preparation organizations and your city, you might find that there are some great resources even outside of your school to
Yeah.
help you create that community of champions and advocates to help you along the way. Just don't let your first no shut you down or let the limited expectations of the first person you talk to shut you down. If the first answer is not what you are looking for, keep digging and keep exploring because there are lots of ways to feed a cat in the future as you plan
Yeah.
for the future.
Exactly. That's how you have to think of it too, right? And that advice is also really good because I know even in my local community, the library does all types of workshops. They'll bring in local people to talk about the college experience and college planning. And so I saw that for the first time at a little flyer that was in the
Mhm.
post office. So I think if you Google around, you're right, you might find some things that are happening that you could just participate in, and it would give you some insight, just because you take the initiative, right? And I do think, and I wonder if you agree with me, when you look back at the time you were considering community college, it's a different experience now, I think, for students that look at community colleges. And oftentimes, dual enrollment is a thing, right? It's getting close. I was just reading recently, like, 1 in 10 students are dually enrolled now in high school and a local community college to graduate. And I think that's a really wise way if you have the time and the effort to put into that to take college level high school classes while you're also working toward an associate degree potentially and
Yes.
graduate from high school with 2 degrees, right? I
Yes.
don't think, I mean, I don't remember them doing that when I was in
No.
college.
30
And
years
so
ago when we were in college, they were not doing that. No. It is,
yes,
I would say, a phenomenon that has grown in the last 15 to 20 years
yeah,
of schools, high schools offering it and being in partnership with their local community college. And I agree with you. It is a great way for a young person, one, to be exposed to the college experience early on,
yeah,
two,
yeah,
to get credits that they can transfer to a four-year institution at some point, or to all go all the way to get your associate's degree even before you finish high school. It's a
right.
win-win-win financially, in terms of time, in terms of experience. And for young people who might not know what they want to do, it gives them a chance to try out a lot of different things early on. I agree.
Yeah, and I think it's like, I'm not gonna say I think the 4-year full experience is amazing, and I
Mhm.
do think that students should pursue that if they can and if it makes sense for them. I do think if there's some resource challenges and they're trying to figure out how to pull it all together, similar to what you said you had to do, if you could come out of high school with an associate's degree potentially, or even go to community college initially and then transfer to the 4-year school, you know, that 2-year degree will take you so much further. It's less expensive most of the time. And then you get to your 4-year experience, and it takes you about 2 years to finish a bachelor's degree at about half the price. And so let's say you do that and then you transfer to a state school or a private school or whatever, you still come out with a bachelor's degree from that institution. And I'll tell you, a lot of recruiters that I talk to, they like looking at resumes that show the kind of innovative way students pull themselves through experiences, right? And so a community college on a resume sometimes goes a long way to showing that you have grit and you have this, eagerness, and that's the type of person they want to hire, right? And
Yes.
so I don't think students think that far through it when they're trying to look at options or make decisions. So I'm glad you mentioned the story about the community college. Well, I know we don't have a ton of time. I do appreciate you taking this much time to give such good advice for students. But I always want to ask you something about the college student parent experience on 2 levels. Maybe some of it is thinking about your parents and then you as a parent. Like, what's something that you wish parents would know to be more supportive or encouraging or better at helping their student through the experience? Is there anything that comes to mind along those lines?
So both from my experience as a student applying 30 years ago and my
Mhm.
experience launching three children off to college
Yep.
over the last few years, the anxiety and stress level that students are experiencing is very high, not
Mhm.
just in terms of what school they might go to and what major they might choose, but also in the realization that they are transitioning to a new step in their own adulting journey, and that it is taking them away from the familiar and moving them into a place of unfamiliar. I underestimated the emotional journey that I was going to go on and that I saw my children go through. So if there
Mhm.
is one thing I would leave with parents is read The Truth About College Admissions, because it'll recommend that you host just a once a week discussion. Don't Surprise your student in the car when they get in the car and ask them 15 questions about their college planning. Did they finish the application? Did they finish the essay? Did they apply for financial aid? Don't wait for them to come downstairs to the fridge and then ask them, did they get the advisor writing the letter of recommendation? Set aside a time once a week. You hold all your questions as a parent for that once a week time. The student can come prepared to that conversation once a week so that you are not raising the anxiety level in front of your student every single day because they begin to dread spending time with you. And I'm going to tell you, I failed at this miserably, Steve. I was constantly asking questions and my children began to shut down. And there was a lot of tension, I think, that could have been managed better if I experienced this and prepared myself as a parent for the emotional separation that they were going to be going through and that I was going to be going through as a parent, that then raised our anxiety level and caused more friction than community. And I appreciate this book now that I just finished reading a month ago. So that's why I keep promoting it. I wish I had it when I started my journey 30 years ago. I wish I had it when I was walking my own children through the process, because they specifically say, this is an emotionally fraught moment, and we all need to breathe and support each other through the emotional ups and downs, as well as the technical and tactical to-do items.
That's great. And I mean, I think you look at college as supposed to be this like amazing, like once in a lifetime experience that you're excited about and looking forward to. And you don't maybe always think about the amount of anxiety that goes into the process of getting you from point A to the point B, which is the college experience. So that's really good. On the flip side, what about students? What would you tell them they should think about as it relates to having family members that are obviously they care about them and what they're doing? Is there a rule of thumb that you would toss out as a piece of advice to be a good, student to those that support and care about you back home or
Oh,
wherever?
wow. Well, for any teenager, I always encourage, keep communicating and don't shut down as much as possible. I have experienced in my interaction with teenagers is that sometimes when they're frustrated, they just shut down. They won't talk anymore. They avoid. They don't find ways to continue communicating what they want or what's on their heart. So I would say, as a young person going through the journey, that you keep communicating and sharing your emotional ups and downs, your expectations around what the future is, and also recognize that a 2-year college, a private institution, a public institution, your local institution, or a school 300 miles away, all have value and can offer you a journey where you can be successful. The question is, what type of experience do you want, and how are you going to work that experience to the maximum? And I have seen successful students in each of those journeys, whether it's private school, public school, far away, local, community college, but all of it rested on how much energy you as the student were ready to put into making that journey work for you. There's always a way. Find your champions and find your mentors and find your advocates to help you along the way. But know that all of those paths can work out if you own it and you work it.
Well, thank you so much for all of that, because such incredible insight that I think will help so many people that are thinking about this experience or maybe currently in this experience. So I appreciate you taking the time. And generally speaking, too, just thank you for all of the ways that you have made a difference for so many people through the work that you do with foundations and other things. You're really impacting, students and higher ed in so many positive ways. So I really do appreciate you for that, and I know so many people have benefited from the work that you do. So thank you, Tina. You're the best.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Steve. As always, I enjoy having a conversation with you. There is an adage that says iron sharpens iron, and anytime I'm in your presence, you sharpen me for the next leg of my professional journey. So thank you for all you're doing with the work of this scoop, and I look forward to hearing more from other leaders that are part of this package of conversation.
Oh, thank you. And we'll have to do it again sometime soon.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.